You're listening to WUVT-FM 90.7 Blacksburg. From the campus of Virginia Tech, listener-supported, student-operated radio for the New River Valley and beyond. Well, for almost 30 years, John Hildreth has captivated audiences in Southwest Virginia. Moving here from Nashville in the late 1990s, he was a founding member of the powerhouse dance band, touring and releasing 2 albums with them. He can be seen throughout the region as a soloist, as well as with the bands Talk to Me and Taco Cat. 2024 was a really prolific year for John, with the release of not one but 2 well-received albums, Parallel Lives and The Hidden World, both of which were for the most part mixed and mastered by Steve Helm at Inca Road Studios here in Blacksburg. His latest project, Second Planet, dropped on May 23rd to great reviews. Richard Bozick called it comfort food for the ears. To discuss Second Planet and more projects to come, please welcome John Hildreth and Steve Helm to the show. Good morning, guys.
Morning. Thanks for having us, Pete.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. I realize Saturday mornings early is not musician-friendly time always.
I'm usually up anyways.
Second Planet, what was the vision for this release?
Well, it's one of 3 in a series, the first one being last year's The Hidden World. And so this kind of continues that journey of just exploring my songwriting, my voice, my low voice, as well as more of the deep tissue kind of guitar tunes that I write. And so this is a vehicle for all those things.
Well, I thought we'd jump into the music fairly quickly, and then we'll talk some about it. The first cut on the album is Elephant Grove?
Yep, Elephant Groove.
Or Groove, sorry. I spelt that wrong in my notes. And
that's another one you could write. Elephant Grove. Yeah, next to China Grove.
Yeah, left out an O. Just you on the guitar with, I think, percussion on the guitar body. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all just done on a single guitar.
Well, and what kind of images did you want the listener to see in that music?
Well, the inspiration was just thinking about elephant society and how when they're traveling together, they have a certain kind of rhythm. When they move and they walk. And so I was just thinking about that and had this idea for this heavy groove in my head. So I kind of had to create this technique so that I could play it and kind of have the percussion with the harmony and the groove happening all at the same time.
Now, is this one that's easy to do live? Or?
Well, I've played it enough, so it's familiar to me. It took some doing to learn the technique.
Well, let's listen to Elephant Groove and come back and talk to John and Steve here in the studio on WUVT. Elephant Groove by John Hildreth off his latest Second Planet. John Hildreth, Steve Helm are here live in the studio. The next cut on the album, Last One Left. The chorus of that, I just wanted to read that. And I know that I'll never see you again, and I know I'm the last one left. And it's me who can never forget, and it's me, I'm the last one left. Those words seem to communicate a longing for lost things that we've all experienced. What's the story behind that song, John?
So the song is about kind of the phenomenon, if you will, that we can find ourselves in when at some point in life you realize you're the last remaining person that has a memory of something.
Sure.
Like if you think back years, you have experiences with these other people, and as time goes by, you may find yourself being the last one left that remembers. Whether you're the only one still here, or whether for whatever reason no one else is ever going to remember it.
Well, and if it's not too personal to ask, was there a particular loss that started this process, or was it just a general feeling?
Kind of just a general feeling. The verses are all kind of inspired by things that I've experienced or witnessed. And as a person that, generally has had a really good memory, that is kind of a mixed blessing. As time goes by, you find yourself, you just remember these things, and
Sure.
chances are you're the only one that does. Again, whether it's because, those people you shared it with aren't here anymore, or maybe they're just never going to remember it.
Wow.
And beyond that, it kind of becomes, whatever it means to the listener. That's what I was thinking when I wrote it. But that can mean something else to somebody else.
Wow. Well, it's such a beautiful song. Let's give it a listen. This is Last One Left by John Hildreth on WUVT.
Long forgotten person, long forgotten words, a fleeting moment when you were young, the paths of all the birds. They said they'd wait when you had to leave, were gone when you came back. Autumn child, heart on your sleeve, you stayed till you had to leave. And I know I'll never see you again, and I know I'm the last one left, and it's me who can never forget, and it's me, I'm the last one left. Children in a summer street, all now lost to time, remembering that faded day, only now inside your mind. Midnight walk at childhood's end, moon and stringy lights. College child in the winter rain, beautiful fateful night. And I know I'll never see you again, and I know I'm the last one left, and it's me who can never forget, and it's me, I'm the last one left. everything was new, the place where you used to meet. Now gone from the world, a cathedral found, only you have escaped to tell. Lifetimes live inside of you, ghosts and strangers' dreams, and you grow old, falling through the deep, till the world it finally sleeps, sleeps, sleeps. And I know I'll never see you again, and I know I'm the last one left, and it's me who can never forget, and it's me, I'm the last one left.
Last One Left by John Hildreth off his latest, Second Planet, on WUVT. Well, Steve, we know the effects that engineers can have on artists' music. I mean, George Martin shaped the creative direction of the Beatles and pointed them in directions they might not have gone to. Explain what you do in the studio with John's music and how much of that is a collaborative effort with John.
It's humbling to be even mentioned in the same breath as George Martin, because he really, really did shape the Beatles and what they ultimately sounded like. For me, a lot of John's guitar work is influenced by Michael Hedges and others that play in that style.
Right.
And I was fortunate to see Michael when he came to Blacksburg a few times, many years ago. And he played it, I think it was Daddy's Money still, maybe it was Morgan's. And we were in there very early, and he set up and took a very long time, several hours, to get his guitar sound and vocal sound. That's all he had was his guitar and voice. And he was so meticulous about dialing in the reverb and compressor and EQ and everything else, just doing it live. And it's a beautiful, beautiful sound. And when you're playing that style where you're slapping harmonics, doing percussive things on the body of the instrument, and the tapping, there's a whole bunch of techniques there that are very difficult. It's acrobatics, really. In order to bring that stuff out, you have to treat the recording, and that's the joy of it for me, is trying to dial in the optimal levels of all those effects so that it just soars and rings and thumps you, when it's percussive.
Sure.
And so each tune's different, of course, but over the last few years, as we've been working together more, I've been able to dial in things that work, and so it's nice to have modern tools that can hearken the spirit of Michael Hedges in a lot of ways.
And you did the engineering on the last two also, didn't you? I mean, Parallel Lives, that is such an intricate album. And how long did it take to engineer that?
I don't remember.
A long time?
It took a while. The tracks were written and kind of demoed within a couple of weeks. After that, it was just kind of a long burn, getting it mixed, doing punch-ins. And somewhere in the middle, I had to replace my computer at home. So that was like back up everything, port it to the new machine.
Wow.
Because some of the mixes were so dense that it was actually maxing out the memory on the computer I had at the time. And so it just took a while.
Well, and I'm so glad it didn't crash, because that would have been a tremendous loss.
Well, in Parallel Lives, he gave me most of the tracks at one time.
Oh.
And so I could listen to all of them in the context of the project. Whereas this last album, we did it more sequentially with each tune. And so I really wasn't thinking about what the other tunes sounded like or what the overall album was going to sound like. I just treated it as individual tunes.
Well, John, The World Outside the Window has backing vocals by Kat Mills. Now, she contributed cuts, actually 2 cuts, to last year's The Hidden World. What does Kat bring to your music?
Well, we started performing as a duo a couple years ago. It's something we had talked about for several years, going back years before the pandemic. So we decided to pull the trigger on it. So we have a lot of fun playing together, doing live arrangements of each other's music. And so I had really liked what she did when we played some of my songs live. And so when I got it in my mind that I wanted to record those, I wanted her to bring that to the recording. So the song Wise would not be the same at all without Kat's voice. And so similarly on The World Outside the Window, I really like what she did live. And so I wanted to, manifest that on the recording.
And do you think it was a good capture of
Absolutely.
that feeling?
Yeah.
Well, let's give it a listen. This is John Hildreth, The World Outside the Window, WUVT.
Every time I see you in the summer nights, fading lights, a life that goes by, and I can hear you swimming on that distant hillside, dreaming deep, a child in exile. Moments in time, I was trapped inside. I was waiting all my life, reaching for the world outside. I had a dream about you. We were friends, and I could come to life. That dreamed of world reaching through the night. You had a dream about me. The wall came down, and I could come outside. That dreamed of world, the great divide. Moments in time, I was trapped inside. I was waiting all my life, reaching for the world outside. Pull me out alive from the dark inside. Hold my hand and try to pull me to the world outside. Moments in time, I was was trapped inside, and I was waiting all my life, reaching for the world, reaching for the world, reaching for the world, reaching for the world. I want to see the world outside. I want to be with you outside. I want to touch the world outside the window. I want to touch the world outside the window.
The World Outside the Window, John Hildreth, off his latest, Second Planet on WUVT. So, John, Second Planet, why that title?
Well, the first one was The Hidden World, and so I thought Planet was a good sort of next phase for that. Originally, the title was Second Passage. But then I started thinking about, worlds and planets, and I thought it was a little more appropriate.
Well, I can see that. What's the next cut on the album, The Waiting Room, reminds me a lot of Philip Glass's music with the ambient sounds mixed with the music. What components are there? How did you create that song?
That's the experimental track, and that's also the nod to my classical background, so good call on the Philip Glass. I've had that sitting around for a while. Many years ago, about 15 years ago, I was in a hospital waiting room. And it was wintertime, and so someone was walking around the corridors with boots or heels or something. And it's reverberating, and with the kind of just the hubbub and the ambience around me, I just started to think about this piece kind of marking the passage of time. And so I kind of just wrote it while I was sitting there, and I walked around with my phone and just recorded the ambience. And so that's what you hear on the track. And then all the music is just generated from some different synthesizers and a piano. And so I've had that sitting around for years. So for this project, I like to do something experimental, and I thought this will kind of be an eclectic fit, but I think it'll fit.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I dusted it off, made a few minor tweaks, but it's still effectively the same piece that I recorded 15 years ago. And then in the case of this, when I was writing it, I decided let's make this a little more interesting and use 12-tone serial harmony, which is a different harmonic system than the diatonic harmony,
right,
tonal harmony that we're used to hearing in music. 12-tone music, for anyone familiar, tends to sound really discordant and disjointed, but I like to sometimes use that system to make music that doesn't sound that way. So it kind of deceptively sounds more consonant than you would expect. And so that's The Waiting Room. And what I like to do most of the time now working with Steve is when I record something, I like to hand the whole mix off to him. So he doesn't just master it, he mixes it.
Right.
So I can have, another set of ears on it. And so I like to work that way. In the case of The Waiting Room, it was so dense, there were so many things happening with the minutia. It's the only track on the record that I actually just delivered a stereo mix to him. So it's kind of an outlier in that sense, too.
Well, it's definitely a journey. It transports you. Here's The Waiting Room, John Hildreth on WUVT. John Hildreth, The Waiting Room, off his latest Second Planet on WUVT. Hey, do you have a beard and not know what to do with it? Well, join the VPI Cave Club and take it underground, literally. They're the National Speleological Society's first student grotto. They meet weekly in Smith 146, Fridays at 7 p.m. You can follow them on Instagram at vpi.caveclub. Let your beard and your sense of adventure grow wild. Well, live in the studio with John Hildreth and Steve Helm. Steve, speaking of new projects, you've got a really important one going on at home. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, for all of those dog lovers out there, we have just recently adopted our 5th Great Pyrenees puppy, and it's always fun to have them as puppies because they're challenging and cute and lovable, and they have to learn to get along with their older sisters and stuff.
How are the other 4 handling it?
They're doing really well. You know, they all have their own personalities, and the 2 younger ones get along the best with the puppy, and the 2 older ones tend to have less tolerance. But she's rambunctious, wants to jump all over them and tussle and wrestle. And
well, cool.
It's a lot of fun.
I could see that. Well, our next cut on Second Planet is Lonely Nation. Now, that title definitely speaks to who we are as a country right now. What were you trying to say with the song, John?
Well, exactly what you just said. I described this as kind of a commentary of life in the age of social media, of how, we're supposedly, so interconnected with all this, excess of telecommunication technology, yet it just seems to ultimately function as a barrier and a division, in that it can be really hard to actually reach someone, to get a hold of a real person, and you just kind of have all this noise in between and all this media, and it's also transitory. So it just ultimately creates loneliness. And so that's what the song's about. And it was also, I set a challenge for myself that the verses don't rhyme. There's no rhyming in the verses. And the choruses unto themselves don't rhyme. But if you take a large step back and you look at each subsequent chorus, they rhyme with each other.
Wow. Incredible. We'll give that a listen. And it's, do you think that part of the loneliness was exacerbated by the pandemic? Like we never really came back from that?
In some ways, I think there's some truth to that for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is Lonely Planet, John Hildreth, WUVT.
Desperate for attention, all of different versions, we disappear. Lonely in your dreams, keep on talking without touching, without anyone. Preaching to your choir, loving and hating, manufactured spirit. The place you think you love, are walls of fire dividing who we used to be. screams. Keep on talking without touching, without anyone. Willful sacrifice, things we used to have, given away. The world before our eyes, no longer seen. Terrible fantasy. Lonely silent scream. Keep on talking without touching, without anyone. So lonely in your dreams. Keep on talking without touching, without anyone.
Lonely Nation, John Hildreth on WUVT. Well, the final cut on the latest release, Second Planet, is The Last Bear. Free-flowing, airy, natural. What images should we see in this music? What's it about?
So this is a story I had on my mind for a while before I actually wrote the music. And so this is it's kind of a character piece. It sort of captures, it's the sound of the life of the last bear on Earth. And so you can imagine if there's only one bear left, then all kinds of other things have gone wrong.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
the music is something of a thought experiment and something to think about. And so, you decide as the listener what this looks like. What kind of bear is it? Is it a polar bear? Is it a black bear? Is it a panda? So the song just, it sort of evokes the story, the life cycle of the last bear.
And your music does seem to address a lot of current issues that are going on. Are environmental issues important to you?
Absolutely, yeah. I like to tell stories involving wildlife in wild places. Whether it's something that I'm, making a character out of, or in this case, just sort of evoking vision.
Well, and yeah, there was an animal, was it a porcupine in the last release?
On the last release, there was a song inspired by a real porcupine. Yeah, the song Beautiful Like You was inspired by a porcupine named Kemosabe.
And how's Kemosabe doing?
Oh, he passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, he was an old gentleman.
Oh, well,
out
I'm
in
sorry
Montana.
to hear that.
He was at a really great animal sanctuary in Montana for non-releasable animals called Animal Wonders. He had a really good life there.
Wow. Well, let's give The Last Bear a listen. This is The Last Bear off of Second Planet by John Hildreth, WUVT. The Last Bear, the final cut off of Second Planet by John Hildreth on WUVT. We got John Hildreth and Steve Helm live in the studio. So, John, you sent me clips from your next project, House of Ghosts. Without giving away too much, what's that going to be about?
So it is a double album, and it is about the stories of the house I live in. And so it's about the people that have lived there over the past 100+ years, people that have passed through there, other people in the community that have kind of intersected with those stories over the years, as well as other, creatures and animals that have, called that property home over the years.
And it is a beautiful house, a historic house.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's what it's about. It was written from late November last year to mid-January this year. And so right now, it's a process of getting everything mixed and kind of ready to get the mixes ready, basically, to hand off to Steve.
And now, have you heard any of it yet, Steve? Or?
I've heard a little bit, yeah.
Oh.
So what I sent you is just a handful of clips. They're all just kind of taken from the demos I made. But they'll give the listener the idea of kind of what the aesthetic is. Each track, deals with a story or a person, or in some cases an animal. At some point, and it jumps back and forth in time, again, over the past a little over 100 years. Wow. In some cases, it jumps back in time, in a few occasions, to way before that, before any of this was here. But it is scored, the whole thing is written for piano, tenor banjo, voice, and synthesizer. There is no guitar on the album. That was a hard and fast rule.
Wow. And why?
Just because I wanted to.
Oh, okay. Well, it's your music.
A couple years ago, I had acquired a 1928 tenor banjo, and I was interested to feature it on a project. And so I just got to thinking, well, what if I did that? And then I made something that was more of a vehicle for my banjo playing, but also my piano playing. And then, my voice, and then just some interesting vintage synthesizers. And so it kind of creates this unique aesthetic that I'm pretty happy with. Wow.
And kind of a Tarantino project of music with that shifting timeline. What do you think there are ghosts in the house, or is that just a metaphor?
Well, it's both. There are songs on the record, as in, sort of pop songs on the record, and one of them is sung by a lonely ghost that wants the person in the house to recognize them. They want to be seen, and they want to be heard, and they want to interact with someone because they're lonely. And so there's that kind of ghost, but then there's also the kind of ghost, that we leave, when we've been somewhere, right?
Right.
And so that's just kind of a way that I look at it, right?
From what we've listened to today and what you're talking about, there seems to be a wistful kind of looking back going on with your music now. Do you think that has anything to do with reaching middle age?
I haven't really thought about it. I suppose, I guess. But I've always been fascinated with history, and the kind of unique magic that old places have with their stories and their secrets, and the people that have been there, and the kind of interesting energies you feel. And I've always felt that in our house, and so I wanted to create something that helped tell those stories.
Wow. Well, let's give it a listen. These are clips from John's upcoming project, House of Ghosts, on WUVT.
Please hear me. Ghosts get lonely and still have hearts. We can speak together to see inside. I'll let you in my world tonight.
That was clips from John Hildreth's upcoming project, House of Ghosts, on WUVT. Well, John and Steve, John Hildreth, Steve Helm, live in the studio. That was a quick hour. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for hosting us, Pete.
Well, John, if someone wants to see you live, I think you got a performance coming up in July that's pretty close to Blacksburg.
Yeah, the Mountain Lake Hotel has this great summer music series on Sunday afternoons, and I'll be up there on Sunday, July the 20th. And so I will be singing and playing the piano, a bunch of my new songs, as well as some interesting covers, and I will do a guitar set in the middle of that. I'll probably play Second Planet in the middle of it.
Well, I'm adding that to the calendar when I get home. Looking forward to it.
It's a good time. It's a great spot up there.
Oh, it is beautiful. Well, thank you guys again. You have a great weekend.